Lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it actually means to try and live a creative life while also needing a stable one. I'm not fully committed to one path, but also not exactly wandering freely. I realized this very clearly a few days ago when I fell off my bicycle and broke my nose. I was sitting in the hospital, waiting, slightly disoriented, and instead of thinking about pain or recovery, I was worried about whether I had applied for enough jobs that day. Which is a strange thing to notice about yourself, that even when something physically painful happens, your mind is still occupied with survival, with planning, with this untold pressure to move forward. I think a lot of creative people live in this in between state. We want to think deeply, make things, explore ideas, but life really doesn't organize itself around that desire. It has its own pace, its own demands, rent, responsibilities, expectations, and all of that. And I don't think it's about romanticizing struggle. At least for me, it hasn't been. It's more about constantly negotiating your time and energy. You spend part of the day trying to be practical, and another part trying to hold on to this inner life that feels meaningful, but also very uncertain. There are days that when I do a lot of things, writing something for the newsletter, building something like an IPL analytics dashboard, reading, planning. My mind feels active, curious, almost alive in a way that's very hard to explain. And then there are days when I realize that none of it has really moved anything forward, at least in a concrete sense. That the world measures progress very differently than what I think of in my head. I keep thinking at times, okay, but what actually are you doing with all of this? My family conversations tend to bring that into focus, not in a harsh way, more in a concerned, well meaning way. People asking what the next step is, or reassuring you that your time will come and it will get better, and you understand where they are coming from. For them, stability matters. It's not a superficial concern, because what if time is not something that comes, but something you have to walk towards? At the same time, there's this internal question that keeps returning, whether trying to build something creative is an act of courage or just a slower form of avoidance about basically everything adulthood how has to offer. I don't always have clear answers to that. I've been reading people like Marcus Aurelius, Alain de Botton, even watching David Lynch's work lately. What strikes me is that most of them, in very different ways, talk about attention, like about how you direct your mind, how you stay with something long enough for it to become meaningful, which is where the concept of discipline comes, not as something rigid or mechanical, but as a kind of a commitment, like showing up for yourself repeatedly, even when the outcome is unclear. I don't think having a stable job means failing creatively, but I do think it changes the equation. It forces you to be more intentional about the time you have, about what you choose to focus on. Creativity stops being a romantic idea and becomes something you have to protect, almost deliberately, and find pockets of time to express it freely. And maybe that's the part creative people sometimes misunderstand. And not reality itself, but the way it requires integration. You can't exist entirely in your imagination, but you can't also ignore the inner need to make sense of things, to create, and to express. Right now, I feel like I'm drifting a little. Not lost, but not fully anchored either. I'm hoping that the path I'm trying to build actually exists somewhere ahead. And I think a lot of people live in that space between intention and uncertainty, between what they want to become and what they need to do. Maybe that's all this phase of life is, learning how to keep moving even when uncertainty dominates clarity. Ciao.